Salvete omnes. In this video, we will look at verb moods in English and Latin, and in particular at the subjunctive and how it is used in both languages. First, we need to define what a verb mood is. A verb mood is the nature of the verb, that is, how it is being used in a sentence. Both English and Latin have three verb moods: the indicative, the imperative, and the subjunctive. You may not have heard much about the indicative mood before now. That is because it's been taken for granted that every verb that you've seen in a Latin narrative is in the indicative mood. All of the verb tenses that you have learned in the active and passive voice have so far been in the indicative. The indicative mood is used to indicate factual statements in Latin, and most main verbs are in the indicative. The imperative mood is used to give a command, and usually a command given by someone who is in a higher social position to someone who is in a lower social position, like a parent to a child. The subjunctive mood is a mood that in English can be used to express a wish, a doubt, information that is contrary to reality, or a request. Examples in English would be, I wish the world were at peace. This expresses a wish. He teaches Latin as if he were an expert. This expresses a doubt. That would have been bad if it weren't for our community. This expresses information that is contrary to fact. The teacher suggests that every student watch this video. This is a request. Often in English, the words were, in specific circumstances, would, should, and could indicate the subjunctive. This is particularly true in conditional if sentences. For example, if the youth should rise up, the world would be a better place. The use of were as the subjunctive is used in present, contrary to fact statements, and is one that is often overlooked in formal writing. A good example of the subjunctive as contrary to fact is Taylor Swift's song, The Man. We see a number of uses of the word would throughout this song, because Taylor does not and is not identified as a male. But where we come to the present contrary to fact, in the statement, if I were a man, Taylor instead uses the word was, which is a common usage in regular English. The subjunctive in Latin is used in the same ways as it is in English, but also in a number of other ways, as highlighted by what the word subjunctive actually derives from. Here we have etymology for the win. The word subjunctive is derived from the Latin verb subjungo, subjungere, which means to subordinate or to put something underneath something else. The subjunctive in Latin is therefore used in a number of subordinate clauses to show that the verb in the clause is not the main verb of the sentence. A subordinate clause is a clause that cannot stand on its own because it is introduced by a word known as a conjunction, such as who, that, in order to, when, because, or although. For example, in the sentence, Ian teaches Latin because he loves the language. Because he loves the language is a subordinate clause, introduced by the conjunction because, and it could not stand on its own as a full sentence. Ian teaches the Latin language is a full sentence that can stand on its own without further corroboration. In Latin, many subordinate clauses use the subjunctive to show that the clause is providing more information to the main clause, but is not in fact a main clause. Main clauses tend to use the indicative, the mood that introduces something that is factual. And the subordinate clause, while also possibly introducing factual information, uses the subjunctive in Latin to show that it is subordinate to the main clause. Take, for example, the sentence, the bear goes to the shop in order to buy honey. In this sentence, the bear goes to the shop is the main clause and could, if necessary, stand on its own as a full sentence. In order to buy honey is the subordinate clause and could not stand on its own as a full sentence. In Latin, the verb buy would be in the subjunctive to show that it is the verb of the subordinate clause and not the verb of the main clause. So in review, today we learned what a mood is and that there are 3 moods in English and Latin: the indicative, the imperative, and the subjunctive. We learned that in English, the subjunctive is used to indicate a wish, a doubt, contrary to fact information, or a request. And we learned that in Latin, the subjunctive can be used in exactly the same ways, but also in numerous other ways, particularly to indicate a subordinate clause. In future videos, we will meet a number of subordinate clauses that use the subjunctive, such as the purpose clause, indirect command, indirect question, and result clause. We will also meet a number of uses of the subjunctive as the main verb of the sentence, such as the jussive subjunctive. You should now work on the exercise entitled the subjunctive mood, which can be found in our learning management system. This will review the uses of the subjunctive in English. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to email me and set up a time to talk. Voile omnes.